Edmund Rostand set out to write a high romance loosely based on a 17th century writer/sword fighter named Cyrano de Bergerac. Rostand meticulously researched every historical detail and changed nearly all of them, wrote 5 acts in Alexandrian verse, and on December 28, 1897, the curtain opened on Cyrano de Bergerac. Rostand was convinced it would be a monumental failure. You see, writing a piece full of poetry, romance, and melodrama was a massive diversion from the realism and naturalism that was dominating European theater. Think Ibsen, Chekhov, and Zola, to name a few. But Rostand's fears couldn't have been further from his audience's reaction, which was pure jubilation. Cyrano became a sensation, ushering in a return to the plots of the adventure novels and fairy tales of the past. But in this play, Rostand isn't simply retelling history or playing into nostalgia. He makes a number of key changes to the archetypal romance story, the most significant of which is Cyrano's sense of self-worth. Unlike Romeo and all the male leads compared to him, Cyrano possesses none of the confidence or charisma needed to share his romantic feelings. This is bizarre since he's an expert swordsman, orator, and poet, and these qualities elevate him to the height of popularity in the world of the play and beyond.
Your cousin is an extraordinary man, madame.
Oh, I agree. Soldier, poet, philosopher, musician, playwright.
All those?
Yes, and the best swordsman in Paris.
On stage, there are few things cooler to an audience than expertly delivered monologues and heart-pounding sword fights. Rostand gives Cyrano both at the same time.
Out swords, and to work withal. A Lancelot in his lady's hall, a Spartacus at the Hippodrome. I dally a while with you, dear jackal.
Cyrano is one of those theatrical roles that almost seems unperformable to all but those who actually perform it. But if Cyrano is so impressive, why is he being insulted? Well, because of his nose.
Well, tell me, why are you staring at my nose?
His bravado, or more accurately, his panache, which is a word that we have in English because of this play, also plays a role in provoking his enemies, and he certainly has some enemies.
Color appear to you unwholesome?
By no means.
And possibly you find it just a trifle large.
No, small, very small, tiny, infinitesimal.
What? You accuse me of absurdity? Small my nose? Why, magnificent my nose. You pug, you knob, you button head. Know that I glory in this nose of mine. For a great nose indicates a great man. Genial, courteous.
But Cyrano gladly walks into a fight with 100 foes. His view of himself, though, that is a challenge he cannot overcome despite all his bravery and eloquence.
For me to love, I love.
Whom? May I know?
Whom I love. Think a moment. Think of me. Me whom the plainest woman would despise. Me with this nose of mine that marches on before me by a quarter of an hour. Whom shall I love? Why, of course, it must be the woman in the world most beautiful.
And this lack of self-worth is all the more compounded by the fact that Cyrano's one true love, Roxane, is beautiful, intelligent, and the subject of almost every Frenchman's adoration. She's also his cousin, but that's not a problem for him. It's more how he sees himself because of his nose. The most important of these men to pay attention to, besides Cyrano, is Christian, a young, handsome cadet who, at least in his mind, lacks the wit and verbal charm expected to court a woman of Roxane's social status at this time. So, Rostand has set up a classic love triangle, but his new spin on the trope is so original that it creates a brand new trope of its own.
Paralyzed, speechless, dumb. I'm one of those stammering idiots who cannot court a woman.
Really? As for myself, it seems to me that, given the opportunity, and if I put my mind to it, I could do that rather well.
Oh, if I had words to say what I have here.
If I were handsome like you. Together we could make one mighty hero of romance.
If only I had your wit.
Borrow it then.
Instead of Roxanne's two rival admirers hating each other, they become
You dare repeat
one
to her the
another.
words I gave you day by day? Send to her the letters that I write. I mean, Roxanne shall have no disillusionment. Come, shall we win her both together? For you?
Oh, but Cyrano,
Christian, why not?
I'm afraid.
Afraid that when you have her all alone, you will lose her. Have no fear, it is yourself she loves. Give her yourself. Put into words, my words, upon your lips. Will you? Will you?
Does it mean so much to you?
It means...
But as I'm sure you can imagine, there are real shortcomings to this sort of plan. Neither Cyrano nor Christian are actually themselves around Roxanne, who, because of this, has fallen in love with not the actual person in front of her, but a fabrication.
Who is calling?
Christian,
You again?
I had to tell you.
No, go away. You tell me nothing.
Please.
You do not love me anymore.
No, not anymore. I love you evermore. And ever more and more.
A little better.
Love grows and struggles.
The trope is so original that it creates a brand new trope of its own. Instead of Roxanne's two rival admirers hating each other, they become one another. But as I'm sure you can imagine, there are real shortcomings to this sort of plan. Neither Cyrano nor Christian are actually themselves around Roxanne, who, because of this, has fallen in love with not the actual person in front of her, but a
This
fabrication.
newborn babe, an infant Hercules,
Good?
strong enough at birth to strangle those two serpents, doubt and pride.
Why, very good. Only tell me why you speak so haltingly. Has your imagination gone lame?
This grows too difficult.
Your words tonight hesitate. Why?
Through the warm summer gloom, they grope in darkness toward the light of you. My words are heavy with honey, like returning bees. Yet they must fly so high.
Come nearer then. Stand you on the bench.
No.
Then I'll come down.
No!
And why so great a no?
Let me enjoy the one moment I ever... My one chance to speak to you unseen.
Unseen?
Yes, yes. Night making all things dimly beautiful, one veil over us both. You need no eyes to hear my heart. Oh, tonight let it seem as if I speak for the first time.
For the first time.
Yes.
Your voice even is not the same.
How should it be? I have another voice tonight. My own. Myself. Daring.
All of this plays out with adventure, excitement, heartbreak, and laughs, in what truly is a phenomenal play that, if you haven't read it yet, I highly encourage you to do so. And upon reading it, not only will you better understand and experience one of the key pieces of theater, you'll also see some of our own world reflected. Societal views of beauty, self-esteem, and what it means to act with honor. Questions that were important in Cyrano's time, in Rostand's time, and certainly in our time as well. And if, like me, you can't speak French, you could probably tell by the way I was pronouncing some of these French names, you're going to need a translator. And if English is your native language, a couple to recommend are Brian Hooker, who was a poet who opted for blank verse rather than the Alexandrian of the original. This translation shows up everywhere, in movies, in Broadway productions, West End productions, and it was pretty much the only English version people used until Anthony Burgess, the author of A Clockwork Orange, came up with a new English version, which is very popular to this day. I'm also partial to Lowell Baer, who is a translator for Penguin. That translation is incredibly accessible, a great version for people reading the play for the first time. It was the first version of the play that I read. So in this video, we didn't talk about the ending because I want you to be able to read that on your own, but we did talk about that now classic trope that we get from Cyrano of person who doesn't feel like they're good looking enough for the person they're interested in, and person who feels like they don't have the words for the person they're interested in teaming up to find a solution. And you see this replayed all throughout pop culture. And even Cyrano itself, the play, has been redone and rebranded over the last 100 years. Some famous examples include Ken Ludwig's wonderful play, Moon Over Buffalo, the jukebox musical Cyrano de Bergerac, which is a great pun on the name, and even the upcoming feature-length movie musical starring Peter Dinklage as Cyrano. So if this is your first time coming to the script, I am envious of you getting to read this wonderful play for the first time. But if you're returning to the script, like I have multiple times, I can absolutely say that there is more in this play than you can get in a first read. There's a lot of characters, a lot of lines, and there's a lot to discover. So have fun with it. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below, and happy reading.